I know so many people, they complain, life sucks, but they don't do anything about it. They just kind of like sit in the mud is a term that I've heard a few times.
You don't have anxiety, you create it yourself via the way you think. We live in such a fast-paced world, and when we're fast-paced, everything's a bit harder.
I'm very fascinated, and I think it's where we're super aligned, is the power of people's minds and the ability that people have to turn their life around.
What's that lovely saying about, when you know better, you do better? We live in this society, especially with social media, where everybody looks like they're living the most amazing lives, and it's 99% not real. No one's judging you because they're too busy judging themselves. So live the life you want to live for you, because life is really, really short. If I'm in charge of my feelings because my feelings come from my thoughts, then how can I think about this differently?
What are some of those patterns or signs that you see with people? They might not even be aware of it. Welcome back to the Inspired Life podcast, and I have an absolute gem joining us today. Someone who's had so much impact, is a veteran of what it is that she does, and she's a professional life coach with over 20 years of experience coaching or impacting over 9,000 clients one-on-one. Alongside a long-standing practice, she's partnered with some of the world's most recognizable brands, including Sky, Virgin, Lululemon, Dove, Vitality Insurance, and many, many more. She's delivered keynote talks, workshops, and transformational programs. She's a #1 best-selling author, and there may be another one on the way in the future. Former resident coach and columnist for GQ and founder of the Life Class Coaching School. Has worked with high-profile individuals across sport, business, media, including a recent appearance on Amazon Prime documentary. At the core of her work, she is a simple but uncompromising truth that your life is shaped by how you think, what you choose, and how you are willing to see the bigger picture in life. Jacqueline Hurst, welcome to the podcast, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. What an amazing intro. I was
like,
wow, who's that?
How does it feel to receive an introduction? Some people it feels a bit weird when someone intros me. I'm like, sometimes. So how does it feel to receive an intro?
Yeah, no, it feels good. And I think it's one of those things, isn't it? We carry on through our life and we just do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And it's not that often, that we sit down and have someone literally do what you just did. Like, here it is. This is your life in front of you. And you're like, oh yeah, I did that. Oh yeah. Oh God, yeah. It's a great reminder actually of good old hard work.
What's the thing, and it may not even be on the list that I mentioned, what is something that you're really proud of what you've done so far in this lifetime?
One of the most important things, of course, which is the thing that is, the key to all of this, was to get clean and sober when I was 26, 27. There is one thing getting clean. There's another thing staying clean, and it's got a very small percentage. So I'm really grateful that I'm 24. I'm 24 years this year, clean and sober, which is fantastic. So yeah, that would be one of the biggest things I think I would say is important.
Love it. If someone's never heard of your name before until right now, how would you describe the work that you do for others, for your clients?
What I do for people is less coaching, even though that's what it's sort of called as life coaching. It's more about teaching. And it's teaching people how to use their mind. When we go to school, we get taught geography and history and another language. We never get taught this is how your mind works and this is how your emotions, come to you. This is how it happens. And I think that's a really important thing to learn as adults. Most of the time we're unaware of what we're thinking. We're unconscious. We don't know. We keep repeating patterns. Our feelings can be all over the place. So it's really an education and understanding about your mind.
And what fascinates you about the mind the most?
Oh, how brilliant it is. We only use probably 1/50th of it. Yeah. And how when we train it, we can change our life.
Before we get into the nuts and bolts, because you've got so much substance to you, which I'm sure the listeners are going to enjoy in this conversation, if you could give us a snapshot or maybe a highlights reel on your core life experiences that someone would have to understand to actually know the person that we're speaking to today and listening to today.
Wow, I've had some really crazy experiences through my childhood. There was when I was 10, my parents went away for sort of 9 months of the year. And I was left pretty much on my own for a long time. Getting into drugs when I was younger at 15 to 25, addictions, anorexia, bulimia, depression, anxiety, suicide attempts. I mean, the list does go on. Living in a squat with nothing in my bank account and nothing to my name. It was pretty extreme. And to where my life is today, which is the absolute antithesis of that. There's been some extreme stuff there. I think that answers your question, Lewis.
And what was the turning point? I'm sure there's many turning points, but if there was one that like kind of maybe started to just get you going from reverse to starting to turn it around, what was that for you? And if you don't mind going exactly to the moment, what was going through your head? What was the decision? What was the internal dialogue like for you to actually turn that around or start the turnaround anyways?
I think it was a specific moment in time. I know it was a specific moment in time where I just had this moment of, is like, I cannot take any more drugs because they're just not working. So the drugs stopped working for me. And that was a really wild experience because, I was constantly trying to numb myself out. And when that numbing process doesn't work anymore, you're left between a rock and a hard place. So they call it the gift of desperation. And it absolutely was, which was like, these patterns, these things I'm doing are not working. So what's my option? Well, there's only one option, which is to literally, try and end it all again, or possibly think, hang on a minute, maybe it was the drugs, maybe it's my mindset, maybe I need to get some help. And that was, 27th of August, 2003. And so, yeah, there was a specific moment, and that was the bit that changed it around for me. It was a gift. Didn't feel like it at the time, by the way, but it was a gift.
And and if you could take us through, mate, some of the milestones, because something that I'm very fascinated in, I think is where we're super aligned, is the power of people's minds and the ability that people have to turn their life around. Like I had someone on the podcast earlier today who was homeless, attempted suicide attempts. He had friends shot dead in front of him. He lived in his car for 2.5 years. You just shared some of the things that you went through, actually some of the similar experiences, actually. And
Yeah.
to be where you are today, to helping thousands of people, working with some of the biggest named companies on the planet, it's like you said, it's like a 180 other
Yeah.
direction. The power of the human psyche for me fascinates me as well. So what were like some of those stepping stones? Was it you reached out to a friend? Did you work with a therapist? Did you do some NLP? Did you do some breath work, some plant medicines? Like what was the kind of the
Uh,
time for you?
yeah, I mean, the answer to that is pretty much everything. Remember, it was 25 years ago or something now. And so I did reach out to a therapist. I was working with a therapist, which was good, really good. She kept me grounded. But also, it got to a point with that where, because I had had so many extremes, therapy wasn't, it was tricky because I could talk about how I felt all day, but no one was telling me what to do to change it. So I think that was interesting. I studied everywhere I could. I learned everywhere I could. Back in the day, I was listening to podcasts as much as I could. And yeah, it was mainly a lot of study of learning how the brain works and how to get better. Most of my mentors and teachers were in America, they were way ahead of us at the time. And also the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous. I went to all of these meetings and had sponsors and people around me that supported me to help me get well. So I was willing to do anything. As I keep saying, the gift of desperation. If you'd have said to me, run naked down your most popular street in London and that will help you, I would have said okay. And that's the key when it comes to doing the work, is that we've got to be willing to do whatever it takes, and you are in that space, which is why it's beautiful. And so I was willing to do whatever it took. And I was, very willing to do what I call, and still call in quotes, the work, which is ripping yourself, emotionally and mentally down, going through the 12-step program, many, many times, getting rid of your ego, learning about humility. For me, it was very much about a spiritual journey and a spiritual path, and tuning into that. That's, and still is today, very important. So, there was so many things that I was like a sponge, was willing to do to just get better.
And why aren't most people willing to do what you just said? I know so many people who they complain, life sucks, but they don't do anything about it. They just kind of like sit in the mud, is a term that I've heard a few times.
Yeah.
But it's like they don't change, and they're just not willing to do whatever it takes. And you're willing, clearly are and have. Why, in your experience, do people not get started and actually take that action?
I think it's based on fear. I think it's a fear thing. And I think that people are terrified of opening what they think is Pandora's box. And actually, often it isn't. It's a lot scarier what you think is going on in there than when you actually bring it out and work it through. So I don't think it's a thing where people, are like adamantly going, I'm just, I won't. But you're either wanting to evolve and grow, or you are not willing to because you're scared. Ultimately, you're scared and you just don't want to go there. And that's okay. That's what makes the world go round.
And what would you say to those people? Let's say someone's listening to this who's, I call it mental masturbation, where they listen to all the podcasts, they read the books, they do like, they're doing something which is better than nothing, but they don't like really look in. They kind of got like their toe in the water, but they haven't really committed to it. So if someone's listening to this right now and they're resonating to that, they're like, yeah, like I know that I've got some stuff. I got some mummy stuff, some daddy stuff, some childhood things. My mindset's not good, but I am scared. You're right. I don't want to open Pandora's box because I'm scared of what might come out. What would you say to those people?
Well, I mean, if you know any of my work or you've been following me, Lewis, I'd say, well, good for you. Stay there and stay stuck then. Like, okay. And the reason I say that is two things. Number one, it would be interesting if someone said, okay, I'll stay stuck, because what you're really doing with that kind of mentality is planting a seed, because no one really wants to stay stuck. Number two, it is a timing thing. And so, when the time is right, you're ready to reach out and do it. And, we must remember that none of us are here for very long, right? So we can either choose to walk around in a victim mentality and stay in that space and blame everybody and be miserable and negative, but that only really affects your life. It doesn't affect anyone else's. So I always say to people, like, if that's what you want to do, stay there. I'm not going to make you do it. You know where I am when you're ready, And I've had people doing initial calls with me where I have had exactly that conversation, and I have said, like, I'm not your coach. I only work with people that really want to do the work, and I mean that, because I'm not putting that amount of energy in if someone's not going to do the work. Like, what's the point? It would affect me as well, because I take it all, take it on, and we do it together. So people say, okay, fine, and I so many times I've had that conversation, and a year later, or 2 years later, or 7 years later, hi Jacqueline, we had this call 7 years ago, and I'm really ready. And that always sort of fills my soul, because, the timing is the timing. That's the bit that is often out of our control. But when you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, give me a call.
It's like when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, people will change, right? Sometimes we
1,000%.
need the pain.
Yeah.
I think you get the feather, you get the brick, and if you don't listen, you get the bus. And some people just need a bus to wake them up, right?
I love that. I've not heard that before. That's great. Yeah.
It's an Aussie thing. I think a lot of people say it in Aussie. My guest literally today told me the same thing, so I just stole it off him. So.
Okay. You stole it and reshared. Good for you. Yeah.
What do most people come to you for? So you've obviously worked with thousands and thousands of people. That's an impressive number of one-on-one consulting. That's incredible. What's like the common theme, the common problems? What's the patterns that you really see with the people that come to you?
A lot of it is, I don't think I'm good enough. It's brought in as something else, like I've got a problem with this, or I've got a problem with that, or, I can't get a boyfriend, or, I'm running this multi-billion-pound company, but I feel like an imposter, or whatever it might be. And a lot of it is, I don't think I'm good enough. A lot of it is based on that, which is an interesting thought process. Younger people today, I'm noticing a huge increase in anxiety, and I have a very controversial view on that, but it's a lot of anxiety. And so there's that. I do think it's harder today with, the whole social media thing, which I, love and hate in equal measure. But I think there's a lot more out there for people to, compare themselves against and feel that they're not doing, as well as, and all of this stuff, which is interesting because, we all know that we're not looking at real stuff when we go online most of the time.
And I cannot not go there from what you just said. What's your views on anxiety?
My view on anxiety is it's something that we create. So when people say, I have anxiety, you do not have it. You have an arm and you have a leg and you have a nose, that you have. You don't have anxiety. You create it yourself via the way you think. And sometimes people don't like that because it puts them back in the driving seat, right? And it makes them think, well, like, that's not true, because when this happens, it makes me anxious. And all my teaching is about, well, it's not about anything outside of you. It's about how you think about that thing. And how you think about that thing is what makes you anxious, not that thing itself. And so, a lot of the time, people do want to stay in that victim space. It's like, no, I have anxiety, but you don't have anxiety. You create it via the thoughts that you're thinking, and it requires a bit of work to learn how to think differently so that you don't feel anxious and instead you choose to feel calm. And that's such an empowering process. And yeah, it takes a bit of work, and yeah, it takes a bit of looking into yourself. But why would you want to live with anxiety if there's a solution for you not to? It's just that you've got to do the work.
And what does that process look like? I feel like sort of 3 questions. I'll try to line them up together. So say you've got someone, and very common, I'm not enough, some version of that. I'm not smart enough, I'm not good looking enough, I'm not rich enough, I'm not whatever. And it's a symptom for me of something within. What's your process of like diagnosing or like seeing the symptom of I'm not enough and actually finding, okay, where's this stemming from? Childhood, beliefs, conditioning, ego, whatever it may be. And how do you walk someone through that kind of process to remove it? Like you said, change the way you think. You said that right at the start of the podcast, which I was going to come back to. But how do you actually practically do that? For the people listening, it's kind of like, oh, I hear what you're saying, but what does that actually look like? How do you do that with your clients, and how do you guide people through this process?
Okay, so let me really simplify what I do. And this is a super simplified version of it. The first thing you need to do is, I'm not a big believer of like, I want to understand my client's past. I want to get an idea of it, but I don't want to sit there and swim in it. Right. So like, give me an idea of like, what happened to you growing up? Like, how was your relationship with your mom, your dad? Like 5 minutes maximum. Like, just tell me about that. School, blah, blah, blah. And you get a pretty good idea of what's going on for someone from that space. Pretty good idea. And it all starts and ends, excuse me, with the thought process. So to keep it really simple, I would say, to help people, whatever's going on in your head about a specific situation, like you're having an issue with your boss or something, you want to sit down and you want to bullet point all of your thoughts about what's going on, right? And you put it on a piece of paper, I think he's this and I think he's that, and he said this to me and that did blah, blah, blah. Write it all down. There's a big thing about getting it out from your head onto paper. And then with each specific thought, you want to look at that thought and you want to question, when I think this thought, how do I feel? That's really powerful, because it's a great reminder that the way you're thinking is what's making you feel the way you do, not your boss. Okay? Then you want to say, well, when I feel that way, what do I do? What are my actions? And then when I look at my actions, what's my result from that? And it starts and ends with you, not your boss. And then I would go through each thought again, and I would say to myself, and here's a really important question. For me to feel differently about this, because I'm in charge of how I feel, not my boss, and I like that too.
Yes, I like that too.
For me to feel differently about this, because I'm in charge of my feelings, because my feelings come from my thoughts, then how can I think about this differently? So that question is a really important question. And that is not for you to go, okay, well, I just say it's okay when it isn't okay, right? Like, we're not going to just stick some thought in there that sounds really good, but we don't believe to be true. So we want to challenge our brain, which is hard in the beginning, but not impossible. How can I think about this differently so that I can feel better? And this process is such a powerful process. It will change your life, because ultimately we all want to feel better. That's it. We just want to feel better, right? And I'm not even going like happy, excited. I just want to feel like chill. I just want to feel calm. So I have to think about things in ways that make me feel that way, in ways I really do believe to be true. And it's almost like a game of, like a mindset game in the beginning of like, okay, how can I do that? How can I do that? And you're literally challenging yourself. And then it becomes second nature. And I always talk about it like, if we get into the car every day and we drive on the right-hand side of the roads, that's what we know. I'm saying to you, no, come along, and we're going to go on holiday and we're going to drive on the left-hand side of the road. So in the beginning, your brain is going to get in the wrong way, it thinks, and it's going to have to look at the wing mirror in a different way, and the indicator's different. And so for the first sort of maybe week, it's a bit, confusing, but your brain is kind of trying to learn it. And then eventually, boom, it gets it. And that's this kind of work. And it's pretty powerful. Look at me
And
getting all excited as I'm explaining it.
I love it. I can feel it. You can. It's like inspired thoughts, inspired action, inspired feelings, which is flowing
Yeah.
through you right now, which I fucking love it. And what does a practice look like for that? Because I'm hearing people say I'm trying to like be as like dog pragmatic as possible. It's like, oh, but
Yeah.
what about this? I'm trying to make sure there's no fucking excuses for the people listening to this, so they can do
Yeah.
something about it. So, would you suggest a morning routine, a meditation routine, a day? Like, because for me, it's like what fires together wires together, and what you don't use, you'll lose. So you want to fire those empowering beliefs that I'm beautiful, I'm loved, I'm enough, and the I'm a victim, I'm not enough, la la. We want to stop firing those so they prune away, and we want to start firing these more empowering identities and beliefs and thought patterns. Is there like a routine or a habit that you'd suggest, or that you even do yourself, that someone can take up and pick up and start doing literally right now?
Well, I think there's two things there that are important with what you've just said. So, first of all, it's very important to become aware and conscious. And that takes a little bit of time. That's step one, right? Without that, we can't do anything. Okay. So, awareness is key and consciousness is key. And that might take a bit of time. And all that really requires is you constantly asking yourself, what am I thinking here? Like, what am I actually thinking here? Thoughts come from my mind. What am I thinking? What am I thinking? What am I thinking? So that's really important. And second of all, yes, what you just said is really important. Like, I believe in myself and I like myself and and I'm strong. But if you don't believe those thoughts, you're going to have a problem. So it's about pulling that apart. Like, why don't I think that I'm strong? And your brain will come up with all this evidence of why you think you're not strong. And that's your challenge. It's like, okay, so I'm sticking with the negative there. So how do I switch that around and actually start looking for evidence of where I am strong? And so these are the mind games you want to be playing with yourself. Because I'm not, I'm really strong about don't tell yourself things you don't believe. But also that doesn't mean that you can sit in a space where you're like, well, I just don't believe it. And that's the end of it. No. Try and find evidence to disprove it. Really important.
Are you a Peter Crone fan by any chance?
I'm ashamed to admit I have never heard this name before.
Okay, yeah, I think from the way you're speaking, he's like there's his definition of the ego is super similar to mine. It's the human identity, and two main traits of it is it reinforces itself. It will find evidence to reinforce the beliefs that you have. You've got the reticular activating system that finds the things that it believes, and second, it wants to avoid pain. So if you then challenge it, it wants to like not do that. So it wants to keep itself alive by again reinforcing itself. So the practice you're saying, I can see people having challenge with it because that's sort of the nature of the ego. Is there like a timeline that you see for people like doing this? Is this like for someone to rewrite a belief? That's probably the question I got. Is how long would it take for someone? So someone listening to this, they say, you know what, I'm gonna listen to Jacqueline. This sounds amazing. I'm gonna start doing this today. Is it gonna work tomorrow? Is it gonna work the next day? Is it a monthly thing? How long does it take to see transformation with the clients that you've worked with?
Well, it can take 5 minutes in some cases. Right, because when you break through a belief that you have thought is absolutely true, and you start to look for evidence of why it isn't, it's a mental shift that can take moments if you're doing the work properly. So again, it's like there's so much power in your brain, and if you've constantly walked around thinking that the sea is pink, and then I will show you, and you will see yourself. All this evidence of why it's actually blue, it's like, oh my God, like, oh my God, like I've been walking around for like all this amount of time thinking that, and that is not real. And now it's this. And then boom, relationships change, work changes, your practice with yourself changes, like everything can change.
If you're enjoying the episode, it would honestly mean the world if you could subscribe to the channel, leave a like and a comment down below. It honestly helps more than you realize. It shares it to more people, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests get. So thank you so much. You are very much part of this journey of this channel to bring this message to the world. With that being said, let's get back to the conversation.
So it can be moments, and it can also be if you don't want to do the work fully, that and you want to stay in your sort of victimhood, then it could also never change. It depends how you want to live your life, right?
I'm curious for this because it's something I don't think I'm very good at as a coach, not to give myself a limitation, but something I'm working on as a coach is actually being able to see how this shows up in people's sort of day-to-day life, because I generally go to, that's a belief that's coming from this, and I'll like to kind of do the coachy teacher thing behind the scenes, because you've had so many like one-to-one experiences with that many people, like 9,000 people over that time period. What are some of the common patterns that you see? Like people, you mentioned some of them, like they're super stressed, they can't find the boyfriend, they're beating themselves up. But if you could elaborate a few more, like what are the things that the question I've got is, what are the subtle, maybe invisible symptoms that people might not even recognize that is actually saying to them there's actually something underneath the surface here? Because it's kind of like, it's like the feather thing. It's like the feather, it's like, there's actually a sign there that you've got a belief, you've got a limitation, you've got something that's stopping you from being the greatest version of you, but they just kind of think it's normal. It's like they've normalized their limitation. It's become their new natural or their reality. What are some of those patterns or signs that you see with people that they've actually got some shit underneath the surface? They might not even be aware of it.
Well, I mean, an obvious one is someone who's, drinking a lot, for example, that they, just because their friends are too, they think it's okay. And, and they're like, yeah, just a bottle a night, but everyone drinks a bottle a night. And I share that with my boyfriend. And it's like, actually, I often think, and it's the same with like, trainers, personal trainers, that I often say, like, if you take away that stuff from that person, how is their mental health? So, well, yeah, it is. And it's like, are they totally fine and still having a great life if they can't train for a month? Or is their whole life going to crumble? So you can often see it from the outside, hyper independence with, women sometimes or men sometimes, I'm just building my business and I just don't have time for a relationship. Like that's interesting to me. Like, oh, okay. So we've put work in the place there. Like, that's interesting. So all of this stuff, and you want to work through this stuff with love and gentleness and kindness, right? I mean, I know I'm super direct and super straight talking, but that's sort of my job. But when I work with myself on things, I'm always trying very hard to do it in like a really kind and gentle way, because you get a lot further being nicer to yourself than you do, with the whip.
Yeah. And I heard sort of underneath what you're saying just then, it's like people, it's like they've got the numbing vices that have just, if you remove, if you were to take away the drinking, take away the things that you're sort of used to, what comes up? Because I find so many people just numb themselves with social media, with work, with drinking, with drugs, with partying, with sex, with all these things. Yeah. To literally avoid those uncomfortable conversations with themselves. Because I actually saw a crazy stat, I won't be able to remember it, but it was a very large percentage of our days were like stimulated. Like there's multi-billion-dollar companies designed to try keep your attention all the time. And it avoids us. It's the default mode network. I think I heard it from another podcast. It's like when you're not actually stimulated by like a phone or by something, if you actually just sit with your thoughts, whatever sort of comes to the surface is your default mode network. And those are the thoughts most people avoid, right? But we're like so like distracted and numbing ourselves out. And it's like, let's remove that and let's actually see what comes to the surface. Am I reading that back right of what you said?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think most people are terrified of doing that. Like they are terrified of sitting with themselves. And, this evolution of growth makes you be really okay sitting with yourself. And you're really at peace with that. And it's such a lovely way to live life, to be super at peace with you. It's beautiful. And, it's funny, isn't it? Because it's a ripple effect. When you're at peace with yourself, you're much nicer and kinder to other people too.
Is there any testimonials that really stand out for you? Like there's some clients that you've worked with over the past 20 years that like just really opened your heart up, like put a tear in your eye, and you just like, yeah, they just stand out to you.
I have to tell you, I have had some testimonials which when I read them do make me like have a tear in my eye. And, it's funny because I always look at it as, this is not me, that it's not about me. This is about two souls coming together. And maybe I'm more of like I like to say like, I'm the light on your journey, the lamppost. So as you're walking through a dark, place to get to where you want to go to, I'm just lighting up, the lamppost, that's the word I'm looking for, along the way. And, to read these things that people have said, to the work we've done and also the life that they've started to live after the work we've done is, it really touches my soul, which is why I've always felt with this is not, this has never been a job for me. This is such a gift to be able to have had such a wild start, seen such extremes and, and understood why I went through that was to get here. So yeah, some of these are, testimonials are just mind blowing, really mind blowing. I mean, there's been some really amazing clients that I've got to work with really, really, big things going on that they've been able to change. And yeah, I start to feel emotional now, even thinking about it. So yes, the answer is yes, Lewis.
If you're okay sharing.
9:30 in the morning, don't get me all emotional.
I like emotions though, and
Oh,
that's
good. Okay.
that's what I
Do
get
that.
paid to feel. So, what's one that really touched you, like the one that was maybe in the back of your mind as you were thinking just then?
I had a woman, one of them. I mean, there's, I could give you like loads of these, but currently the first thing that came in my brain was a woman that had breast cancer and had both her breasts removed, and was, beautiful woman, super intelligent, but she just couldn't think of ever having a relationship with anyone again, let alone having sex, right? Like that was just something, was an absolute, that just wasn't going to happen for her anymore. And so we did a little bit of work together. And, actually about a month later, she met a guy and, had sex, blah, 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 blah. And then about a year later, she married him. And she just wrote me this beautiful email of like, without doing this work, I would, I'd still be single and I would have chosen that for the rest of my life. That was pretty cool. And, a couple of women that have had issues around IVF and problems getting pregnant and, taking them on the journey of going through that. Some of them letting go of that journey, the IVF journey. One of them particular that had gone through it, I think about 12 times. And she came to see me to decide if she was going to do the 13th. And we got her to a place where she decided that she wasn't going to do the 13th. And that a lot of this was stress as well in her head, her life and her lots of different situations. And about 6 months later, I got an email saying, just to say I'm going to email you in 3 months' time because I might want to come back and see you. And I thought, okay, that's cool. 3 months' time, I did get an email and the subject was check this out. And I feel emotional. She was pregnant naturally with twins. And it was just really beautiful to have been on that journey with her. And she just said, like, without me challenging my mind, I would have 100% just been so uptight by this whole bloody journey that I just can't do it anymore. You're looking emotional, actually, Lewis.
Yeah,
So I'm
I love it. It's
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep going with this. Is for me, you become who you needed when you're at your lowest. That's my sort of quote on to do with purpose. And when you get tears of inspiration, you're perceiving a piece of your purpose, or you're experiencing a piece of it. So
Yeah.
when I hear healing, my purpose, the way I articulate it, is to heal and raise consciousness. So I'm seeing that right now. So just like I love it. It's like ecstasy for me. But I'm
Yeah.
curious too, because you've been doing this for a long time and you still get that feeling. I'm curious why that gives you that feeling.
I think I was born to do this work, Lewis. That's the only thing and I know that in my soul, in my heart. And I think I was born to teach how to have a better mind in order to have a better life. And I think, it is such a gift to do this work. I get deep into people's lives in a way where they feel safe and they feel comfortable and they know that they're not judged. And that is such a beautiful space to be able to provide for another soul. And that's the deep healing work of that soul level work where, someone can actually explore themselves and release their chains. So what a gift that is to be part of that. Like it's such a gift.
Because
Yeah.
I'm just curious, is you, just a couple words, make others feel safe, comfortable, and not judged. Is that the very things that you wanted many years ago?
100%. I got really badly bullied at school. I got, beaten up and thrown downstairs and I had no one around me ever to guide me or heal me or support me or keep me safe. Never. So I never had that experience. And I'm absolutely sure, you said it earlier that, we become who we needed when we were little. And I live by that as well, that I'm absolutely sure today I've become the woman that I needed when I was a little girl. And I'm quite fierce about that too. So,
Very
yeah,
inspiring.
that's important.
If we had young Jacqueline, or whatever age it comes up to as I ask the question, if she was listening to this call right now and she saw you doing the work that you've done and being the woman and the inspiration that you are today, what would she tell you?
Gosh, what would she tell me? That's such a good question, Lewis. I'm very rarely stuck for words. I'm sure you've just worked out. I think she would say, that it was, it was all meant to be. This whole path and this whole journey was always meant to be, and that actually, there is so much love available around you, and you just need to find your people. Basically, is really important. But I think I look back at my little girl and I think, God, my 10-year-old would be like blown away, actually. Yeah.
And what would you say back to her?
That she is stronger than she thought she was. Yeah, definitely. And also I would say to her today, I've got your back, which of course she knows. I've done a lot of inner child work, and I think that's really, good work to do and really, really beautiful. And, when you start to connect with your inner child and take care of and listen to and hear what your inner child has to say, and hear your inner child's fears, worries, and look after that part of you, it is again a huge step in the right direction to live a much better life.
Behind the face of Jacqueline Hurst, the coach, the life coach, the inspiration that she is, what's the personal, like, cameras aren't on, no clients are in front of you, you're just hanging out in your own space, doing whatever it is that you want. What's that version of you, or how would you describe that version of you?
Nowadays, this version of me is a very peaceful, calm version. I have a part of me that can, especially with work, go through things and work hard and push and grind and all of that stuff. There is, as I've got older, a part of me now that is louder and requires a lot more calm and peace. So for me, little things really matter. Things like movement really matters to me. To be able to be strong and, lift weights and do things like that in a very balanced way, I love. The most important thing for me is nature. Nature is really, really important for me. I need to be in that daily because it's just therapeutic. I have really beautiful people around me. I don't have any toxic people in my life today, which is fantastic. So there's a lot of love around me, and there's a lot of really beautiful people around me that, we have amazing relationships. So yeah, and I'm always willing to learn. I love learning. That's also really important. And I just keep it really simple today. Really, really simple.
You probably just answered my next question, but I'll throw it at you anyways. For someone listening, what are some habits that you can do daily, weekly, monthly to look after your mind, body, and soul? Things that work well for you. You probably just gave us a great list just then. But maybe some things that you may not have mentioned, again, might be sauntering, meditation, grounding, connection, anything else that you do that someone could start adding into their lifestyle.
Yeah, so nature, number one, really important. Number two, do the work on your mind. Also really important. Don't not do that. I would also say that, as I said earlier, who you surround yourself with is like so much more important than we realize. That's important. Movement is important. Meditation, I love, but I'm not someone who's sitting there for an hour on end. I'm going to do a 10-minute meditation, which I'm going to find on YouTube or something, that I'm going to sit down. I'll do 10 minutes. I'll love that. I don't do it every day. I do it maybe once or twice a week. But 10 minutes out is great. That's really cool, really good for you. And also to try and be calm, because I think we live in such a fast-paced world. And when we're fast-paced, everything's a bit harder. And when we can, etch in time to be calmer, that's really helpful too. So it's a mixture of all things. It's having fun, making sure you've got laughter. Humor is really important, and making sure you've got good love around you. Really important as well.
Beautiful. I love all those, and mirror all those back as well.
Great.
What do you stand for? I know that's a broad question, but I just want to see.
My first word there is truth. I'm all about truth, and I'm all about honesty, and I'm all about authenticity. So if you're that kind of person, like, come on in. I'm not good at anybody who lies. I know sometimes people, we do things and we don't know. What's that lovely saying about, when you know better, you do better. So sometimes people can't help themselves, but again, that can take you into coaching and you can learn from that experience. But truth and honesty is the most important thing.
For me, whatever you stand for, you obviously therefore stand against other things. And you said it just then, lying and people not being truthful. What are some of the lies and lack of truth that hold people back? That's in the marketplace, that's in society, that's in cultures, within politics, within religion, or whatever it is that you stand against. What are those things that keep people stuck and stop people from breaking free and being the best version of them?
I think people can think that they haven't got the power, well, it's just me. Well, that doesn't mean anything. One person can change the world, right? So that's really important. I also think it's really important to be careful how much media one takes in today's day and age, because that is like a stream of negativity for your brain. And I think learning how to control that is really important. I think also we live in this society, especially with social media, where everybody looks like they're living the most amazing lives and it's 99% not real. So I think that's important to you, to control that in your brain. So yeah, I think that's all of those things are really, really important.
What's on your mind at the moment?
What's on my mind at the moment? My second book, which, Lewis, I haven't really talked about anywhere in any other podcast. So you've heard
breaking news here. How good.
Breaking my second book, and I'm excited about it, but there's a lot that I want to get into that book, which will be slightly different from my previous one, but also some similarities. We're sort of just moving on from that, so that's been on my mind a lot. Yeah.
Are you is the topic of what's going to be in there able to talk about, or is that still hush hush for now?
I'm happy to talk about it with you. Yeah. So my first book was called How to Do You. And my second book coming out is going to be called How to Do Relationships, because that's really important. And it's not just love relationships, but it's like all relationships, because that is what life is relationships. And we are often not taught how to have them.
And on the topic of relationships, I like that you just segued into that, is what is it that people are doing wrong when it comes to relationships, whether it be relationship with themselves, with intimate partners, friendships, close ones. What are they doing wrong when it comes to with relating?
I'm a real believer that to have good relationships with others, you've got to have, I nearly swore, but I won't. You've got to have a really, really great relationship with yourself. If you don't have a great relationship with yourself, and you don't know yourself, and you don't know your patterns, and you don't know your why, then that's going to affect every single relationship that you have.
And how does one cultivate or build a good relationship with themselves? Because I know so many people who don't love themselves, they hate themselves, they shame themselves, and that relationship with themselves is pretty shit. So what can they start to do to foster a healthier relationship?
And I think that's, if you're someone like that, I think it's really unfair to get into a relationship, because what you're going to do if you're that person is you're going to want the other person, the person you're in a relationship with, to do all of that for you. And you are going to hang so much on that is going to be, the road to disaster, and it will be uncomfortable. So I think that's a really important thing to do. And when I say about doing the work with yourself, what I mean is do the work, right? Get some coaching, learn about your patterns, understand yourself, and then, try to see where you've previously been going, in quotes, wrong, even though wrong is not wrong, because wrong is still right, because it's still about the contrast, right? So you've got to know what you don't want to know what you do want. But it is your responsibility to look at yourself to see how you're going into relationships and what your part is in that. And, who did you have to be loved? There's all these things you've got to look at to understand it, which is not to say that you need to be perfect to be in a relationship, because none of us are, right? But you do have to know yourself and be okay with yourself to have a healthy one.
And what would you say back to, because I heard this the other day, was I think this is bullshit personally, that you need to be fully healed to be in a relationship, because I'm like, no, you're never fully healed. There's always more layers to go. I'm not fully healed. I got shit to work on still. So what do you say back to that, where it's like, yes, there's the line of like being ready for it, like you've got enough awareness that you're starting to ask the right questions, self-reflect, work on yourself, but you're not, like, you're never fully healed. What would you say back to that? What's your take on that?
I would say exactly what you've said. I would say exactly the same thing. Like, who is fully healed, right? Like, I mean, it's so funny. It's like, when I get there, well, where's there? And especially if you're doing the work, the more you do the work, the more you realize, okay, oh God, and now there's this I've got to look at, and then there's that, and oh, this doesn't sit comfortably. So, there's this is a journey. This is not a destination, this work. This is a journey all the way through. And we are always evolving, and we are always learning, and we're always growing if we're on this path, right? There is no stopping to that. And we just have a deeper level of understanding of ourselves. So if someone said to me, well, you've got to have this perfect life and be healed before you get into a relationship, I would wonder who I was talking to. I'd probably be talking to someone who's not evolved at all. So yeah, no, but you do have to like yourself. So that is important, because if you don't like yourself and you're going into a relationship, you're wanting them to do the work for you. If they like me, then I'm okay. Like, whoa, really unhealthy. Let's not do that.
What's your relationship like with yourself?
I have a great relationship with myself. I really do. And I've gone from a woman that has absolutely hated myself, every single part of me. Like I've said, the suicide attempts and things like that, but, I just hated myself, to a woman now where I fully accept myself. And I'm all right with me. Like, I'm good. I'm good with that. I'm good with me. I'm not perfect at all. I'm imperfectly human, and I just try my best, and I'm good with that.
I've really enjoyed this conversation, and there's still some extra juicy ones I want to get done. But before we start to sort of segue out of this, what's the one topic or questions that this conversation really needs to have to just be top notch and not missed in this conversation?
I think it's just really important to hand people back their power, for people to truly understand that they are way more powerful than they think they are. And that, you can do whatever you put your mind to. I am proof of that. And my brain is no different from your brain, whoever's listening, right? Like, you can do whatever you put your mind to. I'm a real believer of that. And I want people to know that. I really do.
I feel some people are scared of their power.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are people like that are scared of their power. But again, like, then you owe it to yourself to look into that, of the why. Like, why are you scared of your power? Like, what do you think is going to happen? A lot of this stuff is fear-based, right? It's either fear or love.
If you've gotten this far into the conversation, it says a lot about you. It says that you care about your future and you want to be the best version of who you are. If you're wanting to grow, know your purpose, have direction, overcome any limitations that are holding you back in your personal life or your professional life, I have a free 7-day experience of my coaching, and you actually get a private call with me as well. The link is down below. Click it. There is no obligation to stick around. You can cancel if it's not for you. Click the link, get started. First and best dress for the calls with me. Now let's get back to the conversation.
So if you're coming from a fear-based space, you want to look into that gently, kindly, nicely. Like, what is it? Explore it. Just explore it. It's never as bad as we think it is.
You've used the term, I was listening to some of your YouTubes today and yesterday, and you used the term optimism, resilience, and gratitude. So and some of these videos are a little bit dated, but how do you use those terms with the work that you do?
Optimism is a really important one for me, because if I think I can, I will. And if I think I can't, I won't. So I might as well be optimistic, because I'm going to get a much better response in my life. I can walk out the door and be like, oh God, what's going to happen today? Or I can walk out the door and be like, woo, well, who am I going to meet today? How's life going to work? Like, wow, what's going to happen today, right? And that's going to create the course of my day. So optimism is really important. What were the other two, Lewis?
Resilience and gratitude.
So resilience is really important. Resilience is one of my most favorite words, because we have to be resilient to get through life, right? Life is like tough sometimes. So having resilience and knowing that you are in it, long haul, you are resilient, you are strong, you can, in quotes, do it, is really, really important. And not letting, a no hold you back or anything like that. Resilience is just, it's imperative for good character. And gratitude for me is like one of the most important things ever. Like, you cannot be miserable and grateful at the same time. You just can't. So like, choose your happy, right? It's that's really important.
Say we catch up 12 months from now. It's January 16th, 2027. What would have had to happen this year in 2026 for it to be a fantastic year for you?
Do you know, Lewis, I work on the day, right? I'm a day by day girl. And because of the life that I experienced when I was younger, I have a huge amount of gratitude just to be alive today. I really do. So there is nothing that I could say to you this time next year that would have made this year amazing, because to me, every day is bloody amazing because I'm alive and I'm awake and I can see and I can hear, right? So obviously, I'd like all the people that I love to stay in really good health. That would make it amazing. But other than that, my mindset's really strong. So great things can happen just by walking outside the front door.
I love all this. You said something before we started about the school of helping people become coaches. What's that journey like to actually help people step into their power and actually take them through the journey of actually obviously helping themselves, but then also be able to contribute to others?
Yeah, it's a beautiful journey. The school is called the Life Class, and I built it. Funnily enough, I had a hip operation it's probably about 10 years ago, and the doctor said to me, the surgeon said, you'll be up and about in 3 weeks max. But I wasn't. I had 3 months where I was flat on my back and I couldn't sit and I couldn't stand. And typical me was like, well, I'm not going to sit here and do nothing. I'm going to do something. And it was a very spiritual experience. I ultimately wrote the school. I wrote the modules of how it should be, module 1 to module 9, what it should look like. And I got this whole thing set up from my bed, and created a school where it runs 2 courses. One is where you can do your own course of self-development. It's like a 6-module course. And then this one, which is a certified life coach course. And it's a 9-module course taken weekly. You speak to me at the end of the week. You have notes and audios and videos and all of this stuff. And you learn how to become a coach. With all my 20 years, I'm teaching you, and all the tools that work. And it's a beautiful journey because people do come in thinking, I want to be a coach and I want to help other people. But of course, they've got to take their own journey through it. So you get to watch that as well. So it's like a double whammy. And it's great because you think about the ripple effect of that is that, you're helping one person, but that one person is going to help loads more people, and on it goes. It's just more good stuff.
Yes, it's I like you can only help others to the depth you've helped yourself, or to the depth you've journeyed yourself, right? So it's for anyone that wants to step into the coaching world, whether they go down your path or other paths, or they're already on their path. I believe becoming a coach, it's like you're literally seeing a mirror every time you see a client because you like just seeing all their stuff come up, and that brings up your shit, and it's a beautiful mirror. If you had the keys to the castle, so you've now got keys to government, world, rules, laws, society, how it all runs. What things would you change at a systematic level to improve the quality of the world, people's mental health, people's relationships, just the way that we live? Because for me, like I'll use the education system as an example. For me, it's like we don't get taught emotional regulation, emotional intelligence, how to work in our mind, how to find our purpose, and how to do the things that obviously I'm quite passionate about. We get taught things like Pythagoras theorem and Romeo and Juliet, which has never been used once in my entire life since then. Besides when I reference it, is what would you do? What would you actually do? What would be the things that would make a substantial shift on the humanity as a whole from a systematic level?
Yeah, first of all, I can't believe you haven't used the Pythagoras theory since you left. Like, that's shocking to me. Similar to you, actually, I would do exactly that with the education side of things, is teach people the things that I teach people in my office. And I would definitely get involved with things like meditation and, kindness and things like that, and peace. There's all about that. There's, our world is being run by, sociopaths killing each other for land, which for someone like me is absolutely baffling. I'm baffled about this. Like, why you would want to kill people, like it doesn't make sense. So I think the education side of things is really, really important. Definitely, to teach people how to like themselves, and in turn that would change a lot of things.
What do you love teaching the most? You've used the word teaching a fair few things. What is it that like it lights you up the most? You're so inspired to do it. It might be the same thing you've taught 1 billion times, or maybe it's something new that you've just gotten into. What is it that you're really, really inspired to teach?
Really, all the mindset work that I've been talking about today, that really does inspire me, because when people do learn how to change their mind, they learn how to change their life. And so it's quite a quick turnaround. So when you've got someone coming in and their life is sort of going down that path, and then you teach them how to do it, you see a complete 180. I had this client the other day, it still makes me giggle. And she was very much a people pleaser. I mean, she was terrified, literally terrified, upsetting anybody. Anyway, we did some work, and she always had a problem with the mother-in-law. The mother-in-law was quite a bully. She was quite tough. She really made this woman do a lot of things, because there would have been a huge drama if she didn't. And she was terrified. My client was terrified. Anyway, we did some work together, and she met the mother-in-law for lunch or something. I said, tell me how it goes. Anyway, she literally called me afterwards and she said, Jacqueline, you're going to love this. I said, what is it? She said, well, obviously with my new mindset, there was a lot of no's, and there was not a lot of, I didn't justify myself at all. And I was polite about it all, but there was a lot of, boundary setting. And my mother-in-law said to me, I don't know who, and let me just change the woman's name to Joanna. She said, and the mother-in-law said, I don't know who this new Joanna is, but I don't like it. And it really made me happy, because I was like, that is proof you're doing your work, that you're not being bullied, that you've got your boundaries. Because she walked away from that lunch feeling really good, because she'd protected herself, because she'd learned to say no. And, it's that lovely saying, isn't it, of like, the people that are annoyed by you having boundaries are only ever the people that really benefited from you not having any. And so things like that I love to see and do, because it's happening in real time.
Is there anything that you'd like to teach us right now before we wrap this podcast up? Any practical tips, just a lesson that really stands out to you that you just would love to share to the audience?
I think the most important thing is to think about what you're thinking about. Really police your mind and play a game with yourself. Can I think about this differently? Is there a better way that I could think about this so I feel a bit better? And doing that every day, 5 or 6 times a day, your brain will get into that, and you will find that you have more peace.
You've got 60 seconds to share your final message to the world. So you're about to pass, and this is your final eulogy for yourself, and you've got 60 seconds. What's the final message you'd like to leave for the world?
I think I'd like to say that A, you're more powerful than you think you are. B, there's no one's judging you, because they're too busy judging themselves. So live the life you want to live for you, because life is really, really short. And, we're not here for a very long time. So you should be living your life, enjoying your life, because as I say, other people are too busy judging themselves. And I would just say, be nice to each other. Just be nice to each other. It's really important. Just be nice to people. That's all.
I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for joining me and just sharing your wisdom. So many gold nuggets, so many lessons and notes that I took down from this that I'll certainly be rereading tomorrow. My question is, how can someone find you, work with you if they want to get into your work, into your services, just to follow you, jump into your content? Where's the best place they can connect with you?
So my website is jacquelinehurst.com, and I'm on Instagram. I'm not very good at social media, but I do post often, not too often, but I do try to keep that up. And that's Jacqueline_Hurst_, and you'll find me there. So that's private working one-to-one. If you want to do that, I have my school, which is called thelifeclass.com. And that's a course that you can take yourself without even having to speak to me, or become a certified coach. And also my book is out called How to Do You, and you can find that on Amazon.
Beautiful.
Or audio.
Do you have any rough ETA for the second one as well?
I'm aiming for June. That's my aim. I'm aiming to get it out for some summer reading. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I've loved this conversation. I got a little bit emotional during it, seeing you in your flow, which is beautiful. So it was a good sign for me. I call it truth bumps and tears of truth. So I appreciate that. Thank you for joining me today. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Lewis, thank you for having me, and thank you for everything you're doing. Your work is beautiful as well. So I'm very, very grateful to be able to have this conversation with you. Thanks for that. I love this connecting, and I hope that we've helped even just one person today. And, and that's good. We're cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.